Welcome to the pocket. My name is Scooter, and here for you guys today. I got my Week 15 preview of the Giants' home matchup versus the 8-5 Baltimore Ravens. Now, before we get into the video, please don't forget to leave a like down below and your thoughts in the comments to support the channel and subscribe if you aren't already to make sure you never miss a video. So yes, the Giants are taking on the 8-5 Baltimore Ravens at home this week. The Giants are 2-11, and this season couldn't have gone any worse for them. For the Ravens, the season has had its ups and downs, but overall, they're very happy with the success of the team. Signing guys like Derrick Henry have made a big impact on the offense. Although their defense has been disappointing at times, they're healthy now, and they should be looking to avenge their loss in last week's, or not last week, the week before's game against the Philadelphia Eagles, because if I am correct, they did have a bye week. Yes, they did have a bye week. So they're coming off the bye, and they're coming to MetLife to take on the Giants. There might be another airplane flying overhead this week, asking our owner, John Mara, to do something about the horrid situation and horrid state of the team. But nonetheless, that's the state of the Ravens season, and that's the state of the Giants season. So let's talk about what's going to be going on in this game. What are the injuries going to be? What are maybe some of the matchups and schemes that we're expecting to happen? So starting it off with the Giants injury report, Drew Lock has been walking around in a boot, so that means Tommy DeVito is going to be the guy starting in this week's game. When it comes to wide receivers, running backs, everybody's healthy, so the Giants will have all of their weapons when it comes to that. However, we are still going to be without Theo Johnson, as he's been put on the IR. So Daniel Bellinger, Chris Manhertz, and I assume newly signed Greg Dulcich will be our tight ends in this week's game. Now for the offensive line, Evan Neal is healthy and most likely will get the start. We have an injury to John Runyon. So that means either Jake Kubas or Aaron Stinney will get the start at guard. John Michael Schmitz at center, and Van Roten at right guard, Illuminor, they're all healthy, although I believe Illuminor might be questionable. Now, for those who are out, we have Raheem Nunez Roches, Nacho, he's going to be out. Bobby Okereke, he's going to be out. Drew Phillips is going to be out. Cordell Flott is going to be out. Dang, that's a lot of players on defense, and Deontay Banks is questionable. So it could be another week where we see a lot of backup guys who are hungry for snaps getting in there. And, obviously they're not as good as the starters. There's a reason that they're behind, but the effort is going to be quite different from them, right? So sometimes it could work in your favor or it could work against you. Either way, this is going to be quite the squad we're rolling out. So I'm going to be excited to see how they play. I feel like the Giants didn't look like awful last week despite all the injuries. I thought it was going to be much more of a, negative factor, but it seemed like the run defense was actually pretty good. We held the Saints to 14 points, obviously, but when it comes to the offense, it's been the same issues all year. So overall, these injuries for the Giants, you hate to see them, you hate to have them, but honestly, I don't think it changes too much, considering the fact that, like I said, these young guys are excited to get out there and play. So let's break down who the Ravens are. A lot of you are probably already familiar with, how they play, but this is the breakdown. We know about Lamar Jackson. He is I would say, probably quickest, best scrambler out there. He's also very dangerous. Once he passes the line of scrimmage too, he'll break your ankles. He'll get every yard you allow him to get. He's got good vision, but he knows when to get out of bounds and avoid taking hits. So obviously, on top of that, he's a great passer, but his main weapon as a quarterback is his legs. Now, the Ravens over the years have gotten lots of production and success from their running backs. Guys like Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins have had significantly high yards per carry and touchdown scores throughout seasons. Like 5 yards per carry, 10 to 12 touchdowns. Always underrated picks in fantasy. Not really great in the receiving game though, because these mobile quarterbacks don't tend to dump it off to their running backs as a check down. Their check down is taking off. At least, they'll still check it down, but they're going to choose to take off more than, say, a Kirk Cousins, right? So this offseason, they lost Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, and there were a couple running backs in the free agent market. We had Derrick Henry, we had Saquon Barkley, we had Josh Jacobs. Well, they went ahead, and to me, they made the best choice. They went ahead and they got Derrick Henry to sign with them. And the reason that that is so smart, in my opinion, is because when you have a read option mesh, right? Typically, whoever's going to take it inside is going to be the running back, and you want that guy to be a big bruiser because he's not going to be going outside. So speed isn't as important. What's as important is that he can go north and south successfully. And Derrick Henry, although he is actually very, very good at outside zone, he is obviously a beast up the middle and very hard to stop. So when you are trying to decide who to account for in a read option mesh, and you have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, it is just so hard to decide who you're going to prioritize because either of them can punish you dearly. So that is the news and the big change for the Ravens offense this season. Um, and that's going to be something the Giants are going to have to handle if they're going to have any chance in this game. A lot of people have Derrick Henry on their fantasy teams, and they're going to be expecting like 3 touchdowns this week. And honestly, I wouldn't be too shocked if something like that happened. But that's the basis of their offense. It's all based around this run game between Lamar and Derrick Henry. They can control the clock, but also generate big plays through that. And since they are so run heavy, that means that their passing game is very different from most NFL passing games. They run lots of play action. You leave a lot of guys in to block, and you get a couple guys running downfield. And you hope that with those extra blockers and Lamar's ability to scramble, he's able to buy enough time for either A, these plays to develop, or B, him to scramble and find someone to get open as he is scrambling. So they generate so many explosive plays in their passing game, but they don't pass that much, right? So those incompletions that you force are that much more valuable. So whenever you see a team like the Ravens, and they're semi-inconsistent, I mean, you look at their schedule, they have some weeks where they're putting up 30 plus points, and then you have weeks like last game they played against the Eagles, where obviously the Eagles have a good defense, but they only scored 19 points. When the Steelers played against the Ravens only scored 16 points. And that's because if you can contain the run, right? You don't need to hold them to like 2 or 3 yards per carry, but if you can contain that run mesh between Henry and Lamar and contain both of them, then their passing game becomes much more manageable to contain because, you can sort of lean a little bit more towards the pass. You say, hey, we got the run covered, but we need to make sure they don't beat us with the pass. And you go ahead and handle that. So who are we going to have to worry about when it comes to that? Well, they do have a first round pick, Zay Flowers, who's done very, very well this season and his rookie year. He's a very explosive wide receiver. He's not as much of a like route running, get open, like say Deontay Johnson. He's more of like you get the ball into his hands and he can make things happen after the catch. Also athletic enough to burn you deep. So he is Lamar's number one threat. They also have Rashad Bateman, who over the years has suffered countless injuries that have derailed his career, but he's healthy this year and he's playing pretty well so far. So he's someone you got to keep an eye out for. But then I've talked so much about this run game, and the other piece of that is their tight ends, right? Because you're going to keep 1, 2 tight ends on the field at all times if you're going to be running the ball this much. You're going to have those big packages, and whether it's play action or you're running the ball, you're at an advantage. Their tight ends are Mark Andrews, who started off very slow and poorly this season, but he's been back, especially in recent weeks. I think he's got like 7 touchdowns in the past like 8 or 9 weeks or something. He's played very well. He had a car accident earlier in the year, in the preseason, seemed to really take a lot out of him, but seems like he's back. He's been like a Pro Bowl level tight end for years. And then they also have Isaiah Likely. He is much more of like a, say, George Kittle, but I wouldn't say he has the blocking of George Kittle at all. When I compare him to Kittle, I mean like he's sort of a shorter tight end who, if he is blocking, he can't get underneath you, but that's not what he does best. He's an athlete. He's like a big slot receiver. You get him the ball after the catch, and we saw even week 1 against the Chiefs, him make some amazing plays, juking out defenders, running through contact. He's very dangerous as well. And then they did have a third tight end, Charlie Kolar, who's more of a blocker, but he's on injured reserve. I'm sure they got another guy ready to go because that's just what the Baltimore Ravens do. So, as I said, their run game is such a threat. Everything revolves around having 2 tight ends on the field, Henry and Lamar, running these meshes and then getting some play action shots off of it. And that is something you can stop, even if you are the Giants. So, I'm not like saying I'm 100% confident we're going to get blown out. Like there is an avenue is what I'm saying to us staying in this game, but overall, it's just very, very unlikely. The Vegas projection for this game is pretty insane. It has the largest spread of any game we've seen this season of Ravens minus 16.5. Oh my God. I really love spreads like this because usually you can bet against them, and it's actually a pretty good bet because as good and bad some NFL teams are relative to, like, what their records are and how good or bad they look in their wins and losses, in reality it's much closer. um it is a game of inches, right? And even the worst team can compete with the best team if they play their best game. Now, taking the Ravens for 2 touchdowns and a field goal in this, it actually seems pretty accurate. I mean, that would be a score projection of, and the total is 42.5. So that's 29.5 to 13. So you're basically saying, are the Ravens going to win by 30 to 13, or are they going to win 28 to 13? Because that would be the under and Giants spread, or the over and Ravens spread. It's a really, really good question. Um, I think when it comes down to it, this Giants team is down a lot of starting players. They're back down to Tommy DeVito, who hasn't looked good. They're very demoralized. And I think even if we do get, a good start to this game and we sort of contain their offense, maybe hold them to 10.5 or maybe 14 even, like that's not too bad. But I think it's just going to fall apart by the end of the game. The run game is going to wear on our defense. Yeah, we played really well against the Saints last week, but that's the Saints. That's Kamara. That's Derrick Carr. I think this is just a completely different animal. I think the Giants will run out of gas during this game, and then the Ravens will take off, and they'll be up by 2.5 scores late in the third or early in the fourth. They'll take Lamar out, and then they'll just coast through the rest of the game. So what would be my score prediction for that? Well, I do think the Giants are going to score some points. It looks like Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, they're both going to be out there. TJ Tampa's questionable, but their secondary is going to be healthy again. And I just think, like I said, the run game's going to wear on us. Their defense, it's going to get a turnover at one point, and it's just going to seal it for the Giants, and they're going to get blown out in this one. So what do I think the score is going to be? Well, I do think this Vegas projection has it right. We see games throughout the year, such as when the Lions played the Jaguars, and it had a spread like this. It was like 13.5 or something. And I was sitting there just thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I did say before how, games are much closer. Teams are much closer in comparable talent and ability than it usually seems. But there's just some cases where you look at the non-tangible things like momentum and the atmosphere of the team and where their heads are at, and I just think that's what really gives it away to you. That, like, I thought that Lions Jaguars game was going to be a blowout, and it was. It's like, in hindsight, it's easy to say that, right? But to say it before, when you're looking at the Vegas line, is another thing. This is saying 16.5. That's 3 scores right there. So do I think the Ravens are going to win by 3 scores? Yes, I do. I think they will win 33-16. I think our defense, like I said, they could have a great half, but eventually this Ravens team is going to break off 2 or 3 big touchdowns, and it might look close for like a half, and then that Vegas spread is going to look like it's going to hit. That is going to be the over as well. I don't necessarily think we're going to be able to contain this Ravens offense in a way that they don't score like 30 points. But if we do hit the under, I would say it's probably going to be because the Giants are the ones who cannot score. So that's my take for this week's game, and that's my preview for Week 15. Obviously, this isn't a game where the Giants are going into it thinking they're going to win, but you got to take an objective look at every game, right? Because it's games like this that teams just win out of nowhere, and you're like, how did that possibly happen? Like, I'm pretty sure this would be like one of the biggest upsets ever. If the Giants beat them, I don't know what the greatest spread upset is of all time, but it's got to be close to 16.5 for the NFL, right? But I don't know. That all remains to be seen. We'll watch the game on Sunday. Worst case scenario, if we lose, the Giants move to 2-12, and they're further up the draft board for the rest of the season. So at least that's something you can be happy about, right? So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the entire video. I hope you use the timestamps that I put in there. I work really hard on these, and I really hope you guys enjoy them. And all I want to do is make them better for you guys. So please leave a like to support the channel. Let me know if you like the video. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the Ravens are going to cover a 16.5 point spread? I don't know. It's a great question. And be sure to subscribe if you aren't already, and you'll never miss a video. I got money line picks coming out later today, and I've been doing really well with those. So if you want to make some money on some money line bets, I'm your man. So once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.